graph the function. What we have here is a piecewise function. And notice two things are going on at one time. We have 3 minus 2x if x is less than 1, and x minus 2 if x is greater than or equal to a negative 1. So let's take it in parts, and we will look at the function 3 minus 2x. So what is less than a negative 1? We have a negative 2, a negative 3, but let's use a negative 1 and use an open circle in the graph, which means that the answer can go very close to a negative 1, but it will never be a negative 1. So for these x values, a negative 1, 3 minus 2 times a negative 1 would be 3 plus 2 would be 5. A negative 2, 3 minus 2 times a negative 2 changes to positive, so it's 7. And a negative 3 will give us 9. Going over to the graph, let's look at this. A negative 1, and I go up 5. Remember now, at a negative 1, it's less than it says x is less than a negative 1. So we don't need a closed circle there because we'll use an open circle signifying that it's not included. A negative 2, 7. And then we would go off the graph with the other one. But you can get a good idea as to how that portion of the piecewise function would look. Let's look at the second half, where x is greater than or equal to 1. I want to emphasize here that because of the equal sign, we will put a colored dot on a negative 1. We're going to use a negative 1, 0, 1, 2. I like to use at least 3 points when I'm doing this. 2 points make a line, but that third point lets me know if I did it correctly. So a negative 1 plugged into x minus 2 will give me a negative 3. 0 minus 2 is a negative 2, a negative 1, and 2 minus 2 gives me 0. Going back to the graph, I'm at a negative 1, but I'm going down 3. And remember what? We're putting a colored circle there because it includes the negative 1. 0, 2, 1, a negative 1, and 2, 0. So we're going to stop here, but we're going to go on. So let's look at our choices. And the one that looks similar to what we came up with is A.